Hey guys, you are watching SoundPrice, and today I want to tell you about this digital audio player, A&Futura SE200 by Astell&Kern. This player is the second in the A&Futura line. Before it there was the 100, and after the SE180 model was already released. Futurism, arising from the name of the line, penetrates into the structure with various innovations. The main feature of the 200 Futura is the presence on board of two independent circuits with DACs from the two of the world's leading manufacturers, the Japanese Asahi Kasei Micro Devices and the American ESS Technologies. The top chip AK4499 EQ came to the Korean device from the land of the rising sun, and the American school of DACs is represented by a pair of ES9068AS DACs. Both sockets have their own amplifying stage and separate outputs to regular 3.5mm and balanced 2.5mm jacks. The maximum output level that the player can provide is 6 RMS volts. It's available at the balanced output of the IEM circuit. The brains of the player is a mysterious 8-core processor, the name of which the manufacturer does not disclose. The player is equipped with 5-inch HD touchscreen, 3700 mAh battery and 256 GB of internal memory. The body of the player is made of aluminum. The back panel as well as the top end are covered with special ceramic plates. The controls are represented by a touchscreen and touch-sensitive home button, 4 physical keys and a volume control encoder. Around the encoder is an LED indicator ring that can change color depending on the type of audio file being played. Now on your screens you will see the detailed technical specifications of the SE200. To save time I will not fully voice them. If necessary, pause the video and study slowly. The delivery package of our today's hero includes a USB cable, a quick start guide and a warranty card, a pair of caps for the micro SD slot and 2 protective films for the display and ceramic surfaces of the player. The inner world of the player is almost completely identical to what we saw in Kern Alpha. The speed and logic of work, access to wireless capabilities, APK support, all this is similar here. So I perhaps will not repeat myself and will not talk about this interface again. If you are interested, you can find out the details from the Kern review. The link will now appear on your screens. It will be important for fans of wireless technologies to know that the LDAC codec is not supported by the player. The firmware works smartly, does not buggy, does not freeze. I didn't notice any significant problems. It has a bright, high-quality screen, which is a pleasure to look at. I will only note that when the display is rotated at different angles, the hue changed from the blue to yellow. But if you look at the player from the usual angle, the color reproduction is excellent. Using the USB Type-C connector, the player can be connected to a computer for file transfer or use as the USB DAP. The device is charged to the same port. In case you have any questions about the functionality of 200 Futura, in description of the video I will leave links to the player's manual in English and Russian. I would call the design of the player uncompromising. Sharp corners, chopped edges and mirror surfaces. It seems that the designers kicked out the ergonomics specialists and drove them to other projects. The player is certainly beautiful and noble. His appearance combines rigor and grace. And straight lines coexist here with smooth curves. But using such a device, as you know, is not very convenient. And that's putting it mildly. The player is wide, which in itself can be a problem, but there are also sharp corners that can become the scourge of your pockets. In addition, it's quite possible to scratch your hands about them. Because of this, once again, you don't really want to go into your pocket for the player. But sometimes you have to, since the encoder on the back side is half closed by the influx of the body, and it's easy to turn it only from the front. Ceramic panels are pleasing to the eye and amuse pride, but they are very easily soiled, so a microfiber cloth will become your constant companion. What is the conclusion from all of the above? A solid leather case is what is missing in the 200 Futura kit. The positive aspects of the ergonomics of this device, in addition to a friendly interface and more or less handy buttons, I would also include an acceptable body thickness, especially when compared with the players of the Kern line. It turns out like this. Alpha is difficult to stuff into a pocket because of the thickness, and 200s because of their width and sharp corners. In general, parity, but Alpha lies better in the hand. The output impedance of the player does not exceed 1 ohm for unbalanced outputs and 2 ohms for balanced ones. Thus, according to the unwritten rule of 8, you can fearlessly connect headphones with an impedance of 8 ohms to our Astell. There is not too much power in the player, but not a little either. I think it will be enough for the vast majority of IEMs as well as for many over-ear models, with the exception of high impedance and tight planar headphones. The presence of 2 independent circuits on board this Futura determines its uniqueness. After all, in fact, having the 200s, you have 2 players instead of 1. At any time, if you wish, you can switch to another DAC or DACs and get an alternative sound. There is an opinion that such an option is redundant, since they say the choice in favor of one or another circuit will be made once and for all. I will not dissemble, this is a quite probable scenario, especially for thumb headphones alone. But after all, you can change the headphones at any time, which means that you may always want to change something in the signature of the source. And here Astell&Kern immediately has something to offer you. As for my personal preferences, I like the sound from the AKM circuit more. It is both detailed, voluminous and saturated at the same time. There is no inflection towards the bass or treble. There is no feeling of excessive looseness or detachment of the music. I would characterize the sound of the player from the AKM outputs as an almost perfect balance between resolution and emotions. Here, the delicate velvety treble is adjacent to the explosive bass and juicy mids. The lows here are devoid of accent, but have good depth and texture saturation. The mids are a little emphasized, but perfectly balanced and well worked out. And the treble surprisingly combine visibility and unobtrusiveness. Yes, this sound is devoid of zest. Well, do you need it in the player? Or maybe the highlight is that the music without a strong tone sounds natural but delicious at the same time. In addition, for a zest, you can always go to the neighboring outputs where the ESS chips really show. The Saber circuit presentation sometimes seems more interesting to me on dynamic metal compositions due to a denser and more focused punch, as well as a sharper guitar sound. The high voices of the singers are heard better, but they seem to be slightly moved away from the lower middle. Because of this, there is a feeling of draw down in the midrange as a whole. I didn't hear the famous superiority of ESS in terms of sparkle and imaginary treble detail. Maybe it's all about the difference in the level of macro circuits. After all, the 99 chip is the flagship and the 68 is not. Or maybe it's all about the amplification part. Or maybe it's my ears. It's not important. The fact remains, at high frequencies both circuits sound about the same to me, even perhaps AKM is a little more airy. Instead of a conclusion, I would note that the SE200 is of course a cool and unique device that will no doubt arouse the interested glances of colleagues and the wide envy of fellow audiophiles. But personally, I would prefer exactly the same, but without the saber tract, more compact, with a more ergonomic body shape and cheaper. In short, another yes. In general, what I want to say, if I were Astell&Kern, I would take an AKM tract from here, if of course these chips are still on the market. I would put it in a smaller body and add a pentacon. A very strong model would have come out. That's all for today. Never forget, friends, that only live sound is priceless, because for any other there is a price. Sonic Rate was with you. Good luck.